The following program contains mature subject matter. Listener discretion is advised. Montreal's news talk leader, CJAD 800 presents Passion with sex therapist Dr. Laurie Petito. To reach Dr. Laurie, call 514-790-0991. Star Talk, a free call on Bell Mobility. And 800-491-CJAD. Now, here's Dr. Laurie.
When I get that feeling, I won't.
Welcome to Passion, a show about love, sex, and relationships. Tonight, our regular monthly feature, Dating Dilemmas. And it happens to be our 12th show, which is our 1-year anniversary. Frank, it's our 1-year anniversary.
Happy anniversary, Dr. Laurie.
And thank you for those beautiful flowers.
That was supposed to be a secret.
Oh, no. To whom?
To everybody.
Why?
I don't want
They're so pretty.
People are going to start thinking I've gone soft.
Yeah, right. I don't want your wife to get angry at me, though. Or at you. I'm not stealing it, I promise. Just for the night, just for this show. The other voice is Frank Kermit of franktalks.com. He's the author of many books. How many books now?
I think I'm going into the double digits, somewhere around 12 or 13, maybe 14.
Different books. Holy
books.
cow. All on dating issues, basically, and an understanding of relationships in the early stages. Tonight, there are a couple of things we want to talk about, and the first one being that it's our anniversary. I want to talk about, or Frank and I want to talk about, how do you celebrate and when do you celebrate anniversaries? Like, what's appropriate? Because I think, tell you the truth, women are the ones who are like a little in the, romantic zone and want to celebrate every little thing. And what do you mean you didn't know it was our 1 month anniversary? And what do you mean you forgot, geez, guys forget their anniversaries when they've been married for years too. When is it appropriate to celebrate an anniversary? Like, what's a good idea? How do you celebrate it? And when the heck do you stop celebrating?
I think also it's a question of what type of importance and meaning you attach to it. And in any couple, you'll have a difference of opinion as to whether or not a particular event was really significant.
Okay.
The first time that you smiled when you said Gesundheit when the other person sneezed might have a lot more meaning for one person in the couple than in the other.
Like, are you supposed to remember the first time you had sex? Are you supposed to remember the first kiss? Are you supposed to remember the date of all those things? I couldn't remember dates like that.
I think everybody remembers the very first time they had sex when they lost their virginity. After that, it's all downhill and pretty much a letdown.
Oh, come on, please. And that's so not true, because usually the first time is the worst time. You get better with time and practice, of course. You're not born a good lover like that. But no, so seriously, like, what are you supposed to remember? The day you met? The day, like, what do people celebrate and why, I guess?
I think it's whatever expectations they had initially going in. For example, for some people, it's the first kiss, because the first kiss for many couples is the beginning of a relationship. Mm-hmm. Then again, some people don't even see the first kiss as the beginning of a relationship. They see the first time they had sex as the, okay...
Frank, that could be the same day. I mean, let's be honest here.
Well, if you're good,
sometimes
if you're good, it's the same day.
Sometimes that really is, first date sex, and you don't even know if that's going to be a relationship or not.
Mm-hmm. There are people who won't even call it a relationship until months being intimate. So you really have to discuss it and talk with your partner about it. And this is a very hard topic to bring up.
Sounds like a stupid one. It's like, can we talk about anniversaries? Like, how do you bring this up? What do you say?
Well, you don't start talking about anniversaries. You start with the questions of, well, what are we exactly? Let's define this. Are we a relationship? And then from there, you can start finding things to celebrate.
Like, what's our song?
Exactly.
Is this going to be a corny show?
It's going to be a corny show. Wait till you hear about some of the gift ideas for an anniversary.
Oh, my God. Gift ideas for sexism here. You could be gay relationships, too. But do you expect the guy in the relationship to remember the anniversary? Do the women expect this? And do the guys know this? Like, do they know they're supposed to do this? And how do they know when the anniversary is exactly?
Well, for most guys, they're reminded when the anniversary is because they've usually missed it. And I think at that point, a discussion comes up. Well, what is it you value? What is it you remember? And for most people, you have to find out, when do you believe a relationship starts? Once you can answer that, that's when you know what you're celebrating.
That's a good question. When, and maybe that should be the question tonight, when do you know when a relationship starts? Is it at the point of I love you? Is it at the point of we're exclusive? That you have that discussion? Is it after you first have sex? Like, when do you know? When do you truly know? I'd love to ask our listeners that, when they knew that their relationship had started.
Exactly.
When I think about it, I think it's the conversation you have about exclusivity. I'm not dating anybody else but you. We're going to see where this goes. To me, that's a relationship.
You know, there are some people who feel that even if it's an open relationship and they're dating casually, it's still about their particular firsts. So if it was their first kiss, or the first time they had sex, or the first time that they spent all night together, those things might be very significant, and that's what it could be celebrated, because that is the beginning of a relationship.
To some.
To some.
To some, going to bed isn't the beginning of a relationship. It's just sex.
Yes, quite enjoyable, in fact.
But it may not have much meaning, except for fun.
And that is where things might get a bit gray if it means more to one person than it does to the other.
That's right.
That's why you never mislead. You never mislead, and you are clear about your expectations when those discussion topics come up.
Well, we'll have to talk about what it is to mislead, because some people just omit certain discussion things, and that could be itself misleading. So it's not that they're lying or what have you, but it's very hard to have these conversations. It's also very hard for one person to say, hey, what's the situation? Before I jump into bed with you, can you please tell me what the situation is? How many people actually do that? Truly, how many people do that?
I think a lot of people are afraid to do that because they're afraid to scare off the other person and miss out on a potential opportunity. But unfortunately, though, I think people need to come to terms with what their boundaries are and understand that when you're getting to know somebody, there are ways to communicate your criteria through stories about your life, through talking about past relationship experiences and telling about what you learned about yourself.
Right.
And by communicating these things, you're communicating, listen, this is something that's important to me, so if you feel differently, you better let me know.
Right. Celebrating anniversaries, and when do you know it's actually a relationship? So when do you even begin to celebrate an anniversary? How do you even know when your anniversary begins? We'd love to hear from you at 514-790-0991. Once a month, Frank Kermit joins me here for our Dating Dilemmas segment. More after this.
Frank Talks is sponsored in part by the book, I'm a Man, That's My Job, The Philosophy of a Seducer. Your inner game is as unique and personal as your signature or your fingerprints. This book provides you with the means to create your own seduction persona. By this, learn what it means to be a man and attract the women you want. Learn about how men and women think differently and how to take the lead in a relationship. This book is for you at franktalks.com.
With Dr. Laurie Bettito on Montreal's News Talk Leader, CJAD 800.
It's our anniversary Dating Dilemmas show. We're talking about happy anniversaries. When do you start celebrating anniversaries? When do you know it's even a relationship to start celebrating those anniversaries? 514-790-0991. Hi, Victor. Welcome to the program. Hey, Victor. No, Victor's on hold somewhere. All right, let's go to Johnny. Hi, Johnny.
Hey, how's it going?
Good, how are you?
Pretty good.
Good.
I just wanted to comment on disclosing all information or all intent when on a date or when going home with a lady.
Okay.
How much more difficult it is for guys to disclose that information, that it's almost impossible or very rare that you can actually let that out.
Like what?
And actually get to second or third or even first base.
So in other words, saying, listen, my intention is really just to have sex with you? Like to be able to actually say that and get some action?
Guys cannot do that and get some action. It just doesn't happen. It happens very rarely, I'm sure, unless you're an Adonis or whatever the situation is. But you can't really, guys just don't have that play. Girls have that play. Girls can come to the table and be like, hey, you're really cute, we're having a great time, and all I really want is sex. And guys are like, okay. But a guy, hey, we're having a great time, everything's amazing, we're coming back to my place, we're going to have a drink or whatever, and if the guy is like, I just really want to have some sex, and the girl is not going to let you get to first base. She's going home pretty quick after that, I would think.
Frank, would you agree with that?
I would agree with that. With most women, there are a few women that you can be that direct with, but they're very rare. If you're meeting a woman who, let's say, is known within the swinger community, you really can be that honest.
But you've got to wait for the girl to let that
out.
topic be open.
Yeah, that's true.
She's got to give you the hints or whatever, and then you can kind of be more open about it. But until then, you're really just playing the, I'm a really nice guy, and all I really want is to have a drink. Let's go home to my place and have a drink, or whatever the case is, you know?
Right.
But you can't disclose everything. You can't. You just got to be chill. You got to be chill.
Yeah. Thanks for being honest, Johnny. Appreciate it. Have a good night. Bye. Victor joins us. Hi, Victor.
Hello, how are you?
Good, how are you?
Yeah, I'm very good.
Good.
I think the relationship starts the day you have an honest, heart-to-heart talk, about past and present, conversations. I think that's when the real relationship starts.
I like that. I think when you open up your heart, really,
Exactly.
when you open up and share, that's called intimacy right away, right there.
Yeah, I mean, as I said, past and present, you really discuss about everything and, out in the open.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that's a good point. That's a very good point. I guess it's just hard to determine when that happens, but because it often happens slowly, right? You don't have one night where you disclose everything. You're supposed to start when you develop a relationship, little by little by little. It's like peeling an onion. You open yourself up more and more.
I don't think it could sometimes, as you said, it could happen month or two, but the right moment that you can open up to this person.
Right. Thanks for your call, Victor. Appreciate it.
No problem.
All right, have a good night.
Bye-bye.
Dating dilemmas tonight on Passion. Would love to hear your thoughts. We'll take more of your calls after this.
Frank Talks is sponsored in part by the book I'm a Man, That's My Job, The Philosophy of a Seducer. Your inner game is as unique and personal as your signature or your fingerprints. This book provides you with the means to create your own seduction persona. By this, learn what it means to be a man and attract the women you want. Learn about how men and women think differently and how to take the lead in a relationship. This book is for you at franktalks.com.
Listening to Passion with Dr. Laurie Bettito on Montreal's News Talk Leader, CJAD 800.
We've been unafraid to fight.
Dating dilemmas tonight on Passion. 514-790-0991. You can text your message at 514-800 if you're calling long distance, 1-800-491-CJAD. And Frank does have his listeners from Toronto who regularly listen in, and from other places around North America as well. Hi, Jim. Welcome to the show. Calling from Toronto. Speaking of. Hi, how are you?
Good, how are you?
Good, thank you.
Cool.
What is your comment or question?
Well, because we're talking about anniversaries, I've got a bunch of questions, but I think one of the main ones I have is, what do you do when one person thinks certain anniversary dates are more significant than
you do?
Than others? Yeah,
I think that happens a lot, frankly.
Very much so. And the best thing to do is just try to spend some time with that person on that day. And it doesn't have to be important to you, but if it's important to your partner, you want to spend that time with your partner. That's probably the best gift you can give a partner anyways, just to spend more time with them.
And to recognize it only because it's important to her or him. I don't know your orientation, but just to, because it's important to them. Sometimes we do things that we don't necessarily feel, that we feel kind of neutral about, but we do because we know it pleases our partner.
Another thing is ask your partner why it's important to him or her and get them to express themselves about it. Which is that if your partner feels very listened to, that in itself is a gift.
Okay, I like that. That probably answers most of the questions that I would have.
Good. Well, glad you called, Jim. Thanks so much for calling and listening. Have a good night. Let's hear from Joseph. Hi, Joseph.
Hello.
Hi.
Hi. Before you start baking, you have to heat up the oven first. And that's what the thing is. A woman is like an oven. And if you want to get the right ingredients and you want to get your cake and everything to come out right, you have to understand that it's a process.
Yeah.
So, You know, me, I believe that when you know that I'm about to be in a relationship, is usually when I start holding hands.
Oh, that's nice. Okay, yeah, I get that. And when you hold hands prematurely, it's it's like, it's a turnoff unless you. I remember we had this conversation once.
Agreement.
Well, it has to be an agreement, but you have to make sure that you get the cues that the person is interested in you, because you don't want to hold somebody's hand who's totally not interested.
But this goes back to the men's rule book. You see, there's a rule book that many men...
I think Frank wrote it, but anyway, yeah.
Well, there's a rule book that explains all this on... It's like the user manual for women, you know? And the thing is that we have to understand is that you have to understand as males, our objective is to get sex. That's how we're wired. There's nothing we could do about this, okay? But there's a proper way and an improper way of doing it. And if you're too pushy at first, and if you project yourself too much, so you talk too much on the first date, you know, like I heard some women, oh my God.
Like you, Joseph.
A chatterbox. Oh my God.
Look who's talking. Chatterbox, Mr. Joseph the Chatterbox.
Well, listen, I have nothing on you, dear.
Oh, tit for tat here, I see. Okay.
Anyway, we have to understand that it's a balance of life, and in certain situations, yeah, there's sleazy women out there, women that are divorced and are just looking for sex. They go to clubs. I can name all the clubs downtown that they go to.
It's okay. Don't bother.
You know, and this is what happens in our lives. You know, so we have to understand that there's certain times. Women give signals, okay? Subliminal messages.
They're not subliminal. They're signals. You just have to listen and be on the lookout for them. Joseph, thank you very much for calling in. News is next and more dating dilemmas here on Passion.
Frank Talks is sponsored in part by the book I'm a Man, That's My Job, The Philosophy of a Seducer. Your inner game is as unique and personal as your signature or your fingerprints. This book provides you with the means to create your own seduction persona. By this, learn what it means to be a man and attract the women you want. Learn about how men and women think differently and how to take the lead in a relationship. This book is for you at franktalks.com.
This is Passion with Dr. Laurie Betito on Montreal's News Talk Leader, CJAD 800.
Dating dilemmas tonight on Passion. It's our 1-year anniversary for this feature, and Frank Kermit joins us at franktalks.com. He's written over a dozen books. You can check them out online at franktalks.com, all about dating and the whole dating process and understanding women, understanding men, and all of that. He's a dating and seduction coach, although you don't like the word seduction coach anymore, but let's just say dating coach. How's that?
And that works, and I'm also doing a weekly class. It's a couple times a month now, but it's eventually going to be a weekly class. I'm doing it with the Alternative Lifestyle Community Center.
Oh, our partners for our alternative show.
That's
Great.
Right.
And what's the class? What class are you giving?
It's the Frank Talks Men class, and it's based on my material, and every week guys will come in with their book, I'm a Man, That's My Job. We'll do some of the different exercises there, and I feel all kinds of questions based on their sticking points, based on areas that they're struggling with, everything from self-esteem to self-confidence to understanding relationship structures to how to communicate their hopes and dreams and values.
So this is a workshop, basically a weekly support group, if you will, or weekly classes for men who are having trouble.
It's for anybody. It's for anybody who identifies as male who wants to attract someone who identifies as female.
Okay.
So that's about as broad as I can be.
That's pretty broad.
And it's about embracing your masculinity. You know, a lot of guys...
So do you deal with shy guys? Like, are you it's often there's a lot of guys who don't know how to begin the process.
I'm dealing with adult-aged virgins, guys who are incredibly shy, guys who are very socially awkward. The creepy guy who would love to have a girlfriend and he can barely get past a first date or, just getting a phone number sometimes.
Okay.
So, and sometimes I'm dealing with guys who are very attractive, have no problem attracting women, but they feel very unfulfilled because there's still a deep hurt from their past, from that one girl that rejected them, that they still haven't been able to get over. And
so they can't keep new relationships, really, because they haven't gotten over all the old stuff. So that's a great service you're offering to men. So how do men find out about this?
You go to my website, franktalks.com. You look for the tab labeled support, and it'll list all the times and the dates.
That sounds great. Very good. Well, there you go, franktalks.com. Now I want to talk about a different issue. Let's switch gears a little bit and talk about what happens when the parents hate your date, or let's say you're the date and her parents hate you, or vice versa. What the heck do you do in a situation like that?
Well, the first thing I would advise is that you keep your relationship a secret until you know for sure that you plan to be serious. Because until you really get to know each other and have an inkling that you want to spend a lot more time seriously, start bringing your date, your partner at that point, home to meet your family, until it gets to that point, it's just moot to even bring up the subject, because you know that they may or may, you get an idea that, well, I know my parents aren't going to like my date, so why even bother bringing it up?
But why wouldn't they? The thing is that don't your parents want the best for you? And generally speaking, your parents want the best for you. They know you best. I remember growing up, and as a teenager, I always thought I knew better than my parents. And I think most teenagers think they know better. But it turned out my mother was always right. She really was. Every time she didn't like a friend or somebody that I brought home, she happened to be right. She got that sense, and she didn't turn out to be so wrong in the end. But
well, look, when you're talking about teenagers, you're talking about human beings who are still very naive about certain areas of life. I mean, again, I'm generalizing here.
No, but you're right.
So I think that's very different when you're dealing with a young adult,
right,
who is supposed to accept the consequences of the choices they make.
Right.
And if a parent has done his or her job, then you have raised your child to learn to be a certain judge of character. Hopefully you have communicated that. You didn't just figure out that of course they're going to figure it out on their own. No, they won't. You've actively taken them through a process where you say, this is how I judge a character. Let me teach you the process.
But sometimes you have parents who, from particular backgrounds, who have given you the value of you should marry or you should date only people from your own religion or your own cultural background or what have you. I suppose that's the hardest situation, where a parent will really hate your date.
Well, look, it is possible, and I don't think that most parents are malicious. I think the majority of parents really are doing what they believe is best.
Right.
And the idea of, marry someone who's of the same race, religion, culture, it is easier because you're dealing with someone who has the same social norms growing up that you did.
Right.
So it's simply going to be easier, and you won't be stuck in a situation where, we're of different religions, so what holidays do we celebrate? What religion do we bring up our children? Because a number of couples don't even discuss these things, and they're pretty important.
Oh yeah, they are a must.
Exactly. So why wait until? Let's be clear here. A couple who doesn't discuss these things and just figures it'll all work itself out. No, it won't. You have to make it work. Right. And when parents say, look, it might be easier to build a life with someone who already was brought up with a similar value system that you were, there's a certain truth to that. At the same time, there are those parents who are simply going to hate a person's date because they have their own issues to work out, whether they have their own control issues, whether they simply don't like the person you're dating for, it could be a host of reasons. Maybe they're worried that the person that you're dating is going to spot something in them that they don't want to reveal.
Right.
It could be that your parent maybe is incapable of being happy unto themselves, and they don't want to see anybody else be happy because it's a sign for them that they should be changing something.
So sometimes it's just their psychological issue more than anything.
Exactly.
But how difficult is it? When let's say never mind you date somebody, but you're in a relationship with someone and your parents hate that person, that must put such a strain on the relationship, Because you're almost making a choice.
And you will have to make a choice. When it comes down right down to it, you have to face the ultimate choice. Is it the people who gave you life, or is it the person you want to become your life? Now,
Nobody should become your life.
Well, the person you want to build a life with.
Okay, that's better.
How about that?
That's much better. I'll take that.
Okay, it's the person you want to build your life with versus the people who gave you life. And that's not an easy choice. In my experience, if you really want to make the relationship that you're in work, you're going to have to make the other person a major priority, and that might mean having to choose that person over your own parents. But
that's a hard one to do.
And it's a hard one. Because some people are very attached to the family they were brought up in.
Well, your family is there. Partners can come and go, whereas your family is your family.
Right. That's not always a good thing, though.
No, I suppose not.
You choose your partners, so at least if you have a good sense of judging character, and if you have learned, through the school of hard knocks, how to make a better choice for yourself, maybe the partner that you're choosing is better than the family members that you didn't get to choose.
You know what? That's an absolute. I mean, not all of us come from great supportive parents and what have you. There's a lot of messed up people out there. And
choosing a partner who is toxic is bad. Coming from a family unit where you're related to toxic people who aren't interested in changing can be just as bad.
Right.
So I don't think that it's a question of, well, you always choose the relationship or you always choose the family member. You have to decide what kind of a life you want. And if somebody on either side of that is toxic, well, regardless of their relationship to you, a toxic person is a toxic person.
Yeah.
And they can only bring toxicity. Is that the right word?
Yep, that's the right word.
To your life.
There you go. Would love to hear from you, our listeners. Did you ever date someone that your parents hated? Or maybe you dated someone whose parents hated you? And did it stop you from getting serious with that person? Would love to hear these stories from you. 514-790-0991. You can also text us at 514-800. You're listening to Dating Dilemmas here on Passion on CJAD 800.
Frank Talks is sponsored in part by the book I'm a Man, That's My Job, The Philosophy of a Seducer. Your inner game is as unique and personal as your signature or your fingerprints. This book provides you with the means to create your own seduction persona. By this, learn what it means to be a man and attract the women you want. Learn about how men and women think differently and how to take the lead in a relationship. This book is for you at franktalks.com.
You're listening to Passion with Dr. Laurie Petito on Montreal's news talk leader, CJAD 800.
What if your parents absolutely hate your date? What if you're the one they hate? 514-790-0991. Hi, Gregory. Welcome to the program.
Hey, how are you?
Good. How are you?
Very good, thank you.
Good.
And I'm listening to the topic tonight, and it's a very interesting topic because what your guest has been saying, and it's true. Blood is thicker than water. So how do we as a couple make our families understand that we'd like to be together, which is the most difficult thing right now because we have parents on both sides which are against the fact that we should be having a relationship together.
Why?
Well, we both had differences. We both went through difficult times in our lives with separation. There's children involved, and the fact that you cannot leave the one that was there for your children, and you should be there no matter what.
Okay.
Now all of a sudden, we're following our hearts and not following the logic. That makes it very difficult for everybody.
So everybody's seeing you as the villain right now, or the person you're with as a villain because they see you as leaving the person you should still be with, which is, let's say, the mother of your children, versus somebody that is a new love, and it's going to be very hard to accept that new person if they see you as leaving the old one for the new one.
Exactly, and vice versa. So leaving the father of the children,
right,
for the same reason, which makes it out well, and. The time came around that we were both in very difficult times, so we both had to find locations to live, and then we met up with each other, and we found places. But we had separated for a couple of months because things were going well. We were having financial difficulties, and everybody would sort of put everything onto our shoulders.
But Gregory, did this start as an affair?
No.
It did not start as an affair.
No, it started afterwards. That the fact was out and things were set out straight out.
Okay. So it was while you were separated but not yet divorced, is what I'm understanding.
Exactly. And the separation had come up, but the families, I mean, especially my family, had quite a difficulty accepting the fact that you cannot do that. You cannot do that, and you have to stay. And
right. Don't leave your kids, right? It was all about you can't leave your kids.
The Italian blood is thicker than water. You cannot do that.
Right.
So no matter what happens, you have to stay. You have to take care of your family. You have to take care of your kids. You have to take care of the woman that was there for your children, and that's the end of it. You cannot go. You cannot move.
Right. No, it's like you have no option, and you've made your bed, now stay in it, and no matter how crappy it is.
Exactly.
Yeah, that's difficult. That's a difficult dilemma. But I think over time, do you feel that your parents would come around, that her parents would come around? I mean, I think it's going to be difficult because there's
time. I think time will heal, but it's very difficult in the beginning. It's very difficult in the beginning because not only are you questioning what's going on, you're questioning yourself. Holy smokes, are you making the right decision?
Right. What have I done? And where
have I gone? What's going on? And how could I do this? And it's very difficult on ourselves. There's so much pressure on ourselves, especially it brings you into a depressional. It brings you into a depressional state.
Yeah, it can. It absolutely can, and which is why it can have such an impact on the relationship.
Of course.
But
that's why we separated each other. We separated from each other for a couple of months. We said we leave each other because it's just not working. We just can't make it work in front of everybody.
Right. Well, sometimes it's time, but sometimes that time apart and letting things cool down and letting everybody see that no matter what, whether you're with a new person or not, you're still separating. And then, and then people can, adjust to the fact that, okay, you've moved out and you're still a good father and you're still involved and all of that. And eventually...
Where the time will heal comes in.
Yeah.
That's where you figure time will heal comes in.
And those questions you're asking yourselves are not bad. Those are still good questions that you should be asking yourself anyway. Am I doing the right thing? Is this the right thing for me? What's the impact of my actions on others? Like, these are still very, very important questions to be asking yourself. So,
which are very plausible because you're affecting with someone else.
Yeah.
You're affecting everything. You're
That's
affecting
right.
your children's life. You're affecting the life of your family. You're affecting all the different events that happen in your family's life.
And now and for the future, by the way. You affect your children now, but you also affect them later on, their vision of marriage, their vision of all kinds of things.
I'm a father for life.
That's right.
I'm a father for the next 75 years if I live that long, but
God willing.
Yes, but I affect it all the way through.
Yeah.
How are they going to foresee it, and is it the right thing? Oh, let's just live. Blood is thicker than water, and okay, well, I'll just put a little bit of water in my wine, and that's the end of it.
Yeah. Well, if only it was that simple, right?
Well, I wish it was that simple.
Yeah, not. Gregory, good luck to you. I hope it all works out in the end. I'm sure it will.
Okay, well, I'll keep listening. Hopefully I get some good advice.
Thank you. Bye. That's a tough situation. Especially after divorce and all of that.
It's a very tough situation, and relationships unto themselves are hard enough to make work long term. Once the romance phase is over, the honeymoon phase, and you have to start dealing with the real issues of compatibility, it's really difficult. And when you have family members who are not supportive at all, you really need to look within yourself and find a lot of inner strength to carry out, to make sure that you're strong enough to be able to turn a shield against all the people who would want to try and hurt your relationship and build your relationship. Because when those rough times, in every relationship there's rough times, and when those rough times hit, you know that everybody around you is ready to say, I told you so.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. That's not a good feeling.
No, it's not. And you need to really, be sure that you are able to handle this.
Yeah.
And if you're not able to handle this, look, whatever weakness your relationship has, having both sides of the family not want the two of you to be together, you better be strong individuals, because most people aren't. Most people will bow down to that family pressure. just because it's hard to make it out there on your own.
It is hard without any of that support, and when your family's been there for you up until that point. And in Greg's situation, of course, you're dealing with, a breakup of a marriage. So what happened to the relationship between the parent, the in-laws, and the ex-wife? So then there's those loyalties, and maybe she's been around for a very long time, and maybe, they would feel like they're betraying her if they accept this new person. So it's so complex, really.
And when you see the breakdown of a family, you also have to mourn the end of those relationships. And when you're going through the mourning process, you're not going to be the most open and reasonable person in that time frame.
No. You're listening to Dating Dilemmas. With me is Frank Kermit of franktalks.com. He's written over a dozen books that you can have access to if you go to his website, franktalks.com, and also find out about look for the support tab on his website, and you can find out about courses that he gives for men to coach men through this whole dating process as well. 514-790-0991. You're listening to Passion on CJAD 800.
Frank Talks is sponsored in part by the book I'm a Man, That's My Job, The Philosophy of a Seducer. Your inner game is as unique and personal as your signature or your fingerprints. This book provides you with the means to create your own seduction persona. By this, learn what it means to be a man and attract the women you want. Learn about how men and women think differently and how to take the lead in a relationship. This book is for you at franktalks.com.
You're listening to Montreal's news talk leader, CJAD 800, the informed member of the Astro family.
This is Passion with Dr. Laurie Bettito on Montreal's news talk leader, CJAD 800.
Oh, what to do when your parents hate your date and you're the one on the receiving end of that hatred? What if it happens on both sides and two families don't want to see you together? And I've seen that when it's been different religions, for example. But that's the obvious thing. But it could be other things, right? They may not like your date's profession. They may not like their looks. They may not like them. There's all kinds of reasons.
Could be an age gap.
Yeah, that's true too.
There's too many years apart. It could be, like you said, profession or lack thereof.
Yeah.
Could be, a body art, whether it be tattoos, piercings, different colored hair. It could be a number of things that, it could be the amount of time that you're spending, because the family feels you're spending so much time with that other person, you're not spending time with us anymore.
Right.
And, the fact is that children will grow up, become adults, and these adults need to go out and build lives for themselves. And the parents sometimes will be resentful because they feel that they're being abandoned.
Right.
Well,
that's issues. That's somebody with issues.
Very much so.
So what do you do? How do you get your parents to like the person you date? You talked before about saying don't introduce your partner so early on. I guess that's the first step, right?
That stays. But let's say it's an issue of religion, okay, of a different religion.
Well, that's a toughie.
You can enter into conversations with your parents about different religious beliefs, and then you can gauge what it is exactly they don't like about people of X religion. Is it something legitimate? Is it something that that a particular religion believes in?
What if it's not about what they don't like about what another religion believes, so just that they believe that people should marry, so to speak, their own kind?
Well, it still comes down to the choice you're gonna have to make. The bottom line is you're not going to make everybody happy.
No.
And if you attach your own happiness to making other people happy, you're going to be miserable for the rest of your life. You have to figure out what it is that you want that's going to make you happy and that you want to build your future on. And sometimes that means having to make a choice. And it's not a popular choice. It's not a fun choice. But you're going to have to live with the consequences no matter what you choose. So
it's like being stuck between a rock and a hard place. It's almost like because there's a loss no matter what.
Exactly. And, I understand the concept that your family's your family forever, but that doesn't mean that you should force yourself to be with toxic people if the people you're related to are toxic.
What if they're not toxic but just disapprove?
Well, if they disapprove, they probably have disapproved about a lot of other things, and you have to make a choice again. Which consequences do you want to live with? Do you want to live with the consequence of doing your own thing, right or wrong, and dealing with the consequences of, well, my parents may continue to disapprove, but I'm still going to go ahead and do this because it's more meaningful to me than their approval? Or are you going to go for your parents' approval, but that might mean that you're giving up on opportunities that you may regret for the rest of your life?
What about the whole concept that your parents are your parents forever, but your partner's really only your partner for as long as you both choose it?
Part of being adult is making sure that you're ready to make choices in your life and accept the consequences of those choices. You cannot build a future with your parents. Your parents are there to give you a start, but you're not going to have children with your parents. You're going to have children with whatever partner you choose. Now, if you're smart, you're going to choose the right partner for you. Right. You're going to learn about how to choose the right partner for you by learning about yourself, about what it is you really can handle. However, if you're going to make bad choices, you got to suffer for them. That's part of being an adult.
Yeah, that's part of the consequences of making choices. Frank, thank you very much, and we'll catch you next month for our 13th show.
That works for me.
We start our second year together on the air. Thank you very much. Mike Babbins, thank you for keeping us on track as well. If you need to reach me, passion@cjad.com or through my website, drlaurie.com. You can also, would love you to join us on Facebook. We have a Facebook page, Passion with Dr. Laurie, there as well. Would love you to join that. Coming up next, news and Joey Elias with his comedy show. Have a great rest of the evening, and don't forget, life is short, so make sure you take the time to smell those flowers and indulge your passions.
Frank Talks is sponsored in part by the book I'm a Man, That's My Job, The Philosophy of a Seducer. Your inner game is as unique and personal as your signature or your fingerprints. This book provides you with the means to create your own seduction persona. By this, learn what it means to be a man and attract the women you want. Learn about how men and women think differently and how to take the lead in a relationship. This book is for you at franktalks.com.